happy holidays from Trumpland. I only say that because as I speak in this mic, I shit you not, as I speak in this mic, Donald Trump's Christmas tree is making its way through the center of my city. My fair city being Lufkin, Texas. And all of Trump's fans in my town, every last one of them, are now gathered around the street where that tree will pass to protect it from the dang liberals.
Right.
From the liberals and the Mexicans.
Right.
And probably the Negroes. I don't know if they're protecting from the Negroes or not. I know there are no Negroes down there.
Well,
Just like even if they agree with everything that's going down, they're not going down there right now because they're not stupid.
right.
But
there is a large amount of concealed carry people downtown right now.
Yeah, for in downtown Lufkin right now today, as I record this, if you are any of the groups that are watching with bated breath the impeachment hearings, don't come downtown Lufkin because it is just simply dangerous. It's dangerous to be down there. But I do encourage, if you are a Trump supporter, to please go to downtown Lufkin and protect that tree and to get coffee at our local coffee shop, Standpipe Coffee, 123 South First Street, Lufkin, Texas. Having said that, we're not down there. We're here at Tattoo with Children. That's what we're listening to, Tattoo with Children. I am your host, Flavor Ray. Across from me, NCB, is the Dread Pirate Benjamin. And across from us both is the newest podcast sensation taking the world by storm, CIO No Pain.
What's
Good morning,
up, guys?
fellas.
It's Monday.
It is Monday. It feels like a Monday.
A lot happened this weekend.
There was a lot of football that happened this weekend.
Yeah, that's
A
true.
lot of fun fucking football. But some of it wasn't as fun. I guess it was fun, but only if you're really kind of an asshole about it. Like if you enjoyed the last few seconds or last few minutes of the Browns Steelers game, you're being kind of a dick because that was not a good thing that happened. Okay?
What happened?
So at the end of that game, the Browns had pretty much won the game. The Steelers were a little salty about it.
Which is unusual.
It's very unusual, but it's not usual this season because the Steelers fucking suck this season.
Okay.
Just one of those things that happens. Like every once in a while, a good team goes bad, and this one's just one of their bad years. And everything was actually pretty copacetic about it, but they were just a little bit salty. And then one player, what was his? I forgot the name of the dude that started it. This asshole decided to kick a dude in the balls.
Oh.
And then so they separated him out, but because the refs didn't see it, but it was guys upset being kicked in the balls, but they separated him out. And then the dude that kicked him went back for his balls, was grabbing at his dick.
Right.
Like I don't know what the dude was. It was like his dick attacked him or something.
Yeah.
So then the dude whose balls is under attack, the name of Garrett, decides to rip the guy's helmet off.
Okay.
And then in the scrum, decided to hit him over the head with it.
Ah.
And this all happened on the center of the television screen.
Okay.
And so, he's on an indefinite suspension. He's lost this season, possibly next season, possibly his entire career. Two other people's got slaps on the wrist, like a game or two, game 3. And I went to my sister's house to get my hair cut. By the way, I've gotten my hair cut.
You were looking fly as
I don't know if you
fuck.
can hear it in my voice, but this is what my voice sounds like when I got a fresh cut.
Look, you
my
walked
shit's
different
dope.
when you came up here.
It's true. It's true. Like I decided, I just took it upon myself to figure out if my life was better with long hair or with short hair.
Yeah.
Turns out short hair is the way to go.
Okay.
But anyway, so I went to my sister's house, and I didn't bring it up. She brought it up, and she and I got into a pretty intense conversation.
Really?
It was a pretty intense argument.
Is she a Steelers fan or
No,
Okay.
she hates both of those teams, but she was very much in the camp of if a person attacks you, you attack back. Like if you know my sister, you know that's how she thinks.
Yeah.
And so she was like, he was very much within his rights to do whatever he had to do to defend himself.
Yeah.
Like, he was, he shouldn't have been punished so harshly and so on and so forth, and went on and on. And my whole point was, fuck that dude. And she was like, why? All he did was defend himself. And I said, because he gets paid millions of dollars to play a game. And one of the reasons they pay him millions of dollars to play a game is so that people can watch the game and not see what they saw. Mm-hmm. A dude lose his cool. What they want to see is a professional playing a professional sport.
Okay.
And so his entire livelihood is based upon not how well he plays the game. It's based upon how professional he is while he plays the game. You feel me?
Yeah.
And so when he loses his cool, rips a guy's hat off, and tries to brain him with it,
yeah,
he is showing everyone in the world that he's not a professional. And so they have no choice but to prevent him from playing the game that is paying him millions of dollars.
Okay.
My objection was he got kicked in the balls.
Right.
And instead of seeing, okay, I have to protect my money, protect my family, protect my livelihood, he saw, red?
Yeah.
And just went after the guy.
Right.
And I'm never going to co-sign that when I know that this dude's family is depending on him to play football.
Okay.
It's like you see these guys in the NFL, and guys, the majority of these guys don't stay there for very long.
Yeah.
They get paid for 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, maybe 5 year.
Okay.
And then they're gone. And that 5 year has to last them a while because they've done nothing but football since high school at least.
Okay.
And so they have to protect their career for as long as they're there. The fact that he failed to do that so miserably is something I can never get behind. It's like, guys, it's a violent game.
Yeah.
It's a violent game. It's not a safe game. Mm-hmm. But you have to be professional about it, even inside the violence. You gotta be violent inside the lines and not outside the lines. And you say,
right.
well, that's a double standard. I agree with you, it's a double standard. But it's also a bullshit concept of us paying you, and I say us because the patrons of the NFL are the ones that pay you, millions of dollars to play a game that most of us just like to play for free. So, given the fact that you play a child's game for millions of dollars, protect that shit. Be a man about it.
Right. Well, it's not really a double standard in the sense of the rest of the time they have gear. In other words, yes, it's dangerous. Yes, you're taking your life into your own hands. But that's one of the reasons we argue they're getting paid so much is because you've got guys that are super healthy.
Right.
They've made it their job to work super hard, to get super strong.
Right.
And take out their energy. So it's a fair assessment to say that they can hurt each other with protection. In other words, they have helmets, they have pads, there are rules to the game. Hurt each other within those rules. And I understand that if the game is almost over, then you may have to wait, but there's always next season.
Right. Particularly if you're the Browns and Steelers. You know
Right.
you're going to see each other like next season at the very least twice.
Yeah.
So why get... And the game was won. Like, that's the other thing about it. He's on the winning goddamn team.
Right.
Dude, if he actually hurt your balls, like, put your hands up and say, hey, ref, he hurt my balls.
Right.
As the ref doesn't do anything, fuck it. You getting paid $3 million today. Just go to the side.
But also, you got the W.
Yeah, and you got the win. Like, the whole thing to me just made me angry.
Right.
That he couldn't see anything other than, oh my God, I was attacked.
Now, the other game that upset me greatly was the Ravens and Houston. Baltimore and Houston.
Yeah, that upset me greatly as well.
Now, look, Houston did not have a great game.
No, they had a terrible game.
I recognize that. I don't know exactly what was wrong with our quarterback because I generally love that dude.
Yeah.
I don't know if they told him not to run or he was scared of running. I mean, to be quite fair, if I was going up against Baltimore, I would be scared.
I would be very scared to run.
They're very big dudes.
And they hate quarterbacks.
Right. And they eat quarterbacks for lunch.
They do.
So I get it. On the other side of it, though, the NFL missed a prime opportunity okay? A prime opportunity to show that replay works. So Houston is in the red zone in I believe, the second quarter. It was before the first half, I think.
Okay.
There were several problems, but the biggest one was they were in the red zone and they threw a pass. It was a slant route, okay? Mm-hmm. Wide receivers running to the back of the end zone, and they threw it over his shoulder, and the safety tackled him before the ball got there.
Well, then that should be a penalty right there.
Generally, it is considered pass interference to tackle the wide receiver when the ball is en route. Now, you can make the argument, because I really like football. I love the game, so I expect bad plays. I expect missed calls. Okay? That shit happens in real life all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? You put out a piece of work, it's fantastic, it's the best thing ever. You put it out 10 times, and the internet goes, no, we didn't see that. Okay, that's a missed call by the internet.
Right.
I get it. But in this case, the ball was catchable. The wide receiver was en route to catch it, and the defender tackled him.
Right.
Then they replayed the damn thing and didn't reverse the call.
Yeah. Sports Center has literally a 3-picture frame by frame.
Right.
And the picture where the guy is tackled, the ball is not in the frame. Like that's how ahead of the ball he was.
Right. And what I'm trying to figure out is this was, in other words, Roger Goodell would have gone on everyone's Christmas list, not because you're a Houston fan.
Right.
But because you're a fan of football. Baltimore was going to win that game anyway.
They were.
Okay? Baltimore was playing a better football game. But the truth of the matter is, you cannot allow pass interference like that to occur. You can't do it.
At least not in the era of instant replay, where this season, for the first time ever, you can now review pass interference calls.
Right.
The reason why you can review pass interference calls is because we've been seeing, since the invention of replay, since the advent of replay, that pass interference calls, more often than other calls, are missed judgments by the ref.
Right.
Either no calls or called, and it's not actually pass interference. Because it's a game of inches at that point, you know?
Right.
You're trying to say, okay, the ball was catchable or it wasn't catchable. The ball was, did the defender get his head around and shit like that? You know, there was lots of little nuances to what goes on a pass interference calls, and so a replay of pass interference calls can be extremely helpful at times. And so this season they decided to just make that something that they could now look back at.
It's the thing you hear everybody who's a quarterback, an armchair quarterback.
You're right.
They're always screaming at you, that was pass interference.
That's definitely a PI. That's definitely a PI. Well, now we can look back and see for sure. Look back and they saw for fucking sure.
Right.
I mean, this was definitely pass interference.
Look, and it happens both ways.
Yes.
Offensive pass interference and defensive pass interference. I do not mind grabbing the jersey.
Right.
I don't even mind holding hands.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're running down the field, and the defender realizes he's beat. He grabs the guy's arm.
Right.
Okay? It's still questionable, you know, because if the wide receiver's big enough and fast enough, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's been dodging hose for years.
Right.
Like, he ought to be able to shake that motherfucker.
He can slap that off of him,
You know?
and brush off his shoulder and still go for the ball.
And I'm not going to call pass interference on that. But when you see the balls coming and you're like, well, I guess I got to tackle this guy.
Right.
That's not the way the game is. It goes exactly to your point. That is not the way the game is played.
That's not professional football.
And when NFL, I mean, why does Roger Goodell, you're telling me it's 2019 and he can't pick up his cell phone and go, hey guys, listen, that's pass interference. Well, that's not the way it works, Ben. Well, that should be the way it works.
It ought to work that way. Like it ought to, if I can tell, or if Roger Goodell could tell, or if the ref that's the other thing. Like, there is a ref that is in the booth,
right,
overlooking the field with those cameras, and he's telling the ref on the field
what he thinks about it.
So what the fuck that conversation sound like?
Was he in the bathroom at that point?
Exactly.
The guy got, and again, this is not about Houston.
No, it's not.
Baltimore would have won the game.
Yeah, there was no way to stop Baltimore from winning that game. Like,
Correct.
and that, like, if that pass interference call had gone through, it would have been at the 1.
Right.
And the Texans would have been kept out of the end zone.
Right.
Maybe would have got a field goal. They would have felt like shit
Right.
and even lost by more points.
Right, exactly.
So, like, that was just, it was not the Texans' day. That's not even the point.
Right. The point is you had a clear why wouldn't if I'm the NFL, now that maybe this is the difference between me and the NFL. They're very rich and I am not. Maybe
That's a clear difference.
maybe they're not looking for what I'm looking for. But if I was in charge of the NFL this Sunday, I would be going, hey guys, I don't know if you know, but everyone hates us. Everyone hates us. There are no people that like us. They all hate us. So why don't we do this? Why don't we sit in a room with 32 TV screens? We watch all the games, okay? And we look for 3 places where we can reverse calls that will make people look at us like Jesus again.
Right.
That would be my goal. Because
If we
it's
just
not,
achieve the moral high ground once again.
I just said 3 times.
Right.
There's fucking, 20 games going on? Just 3 times, man. That's
Dude,
all I'm asking.
I just looked on Twitter for 30 seconds, and there are 3 pass interference calls happened Sunday that didn't get called.
Right. And it's not, they're not even like, again, I hate the Patriots.
Sure.
But if one of those was on the Patriots, I'd pick up my cell phone and be like, bro, you got to reverse that call. You got to reverse that call right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. Like, I hate the Patriots as well, but I do love football. And I don't like when it's undermined. Like, that's
Right.
what it is.
Right.
It's undermining the game of. That's what Garrett did from the Browns. He undermined the game.
Right.
Because this isn't hockey.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Like, the shit that goes on in hockey does not go on in football.
Right. If you're going to take a man's helmet off, throw it away. Make him go get it.
Right.
Throw it to the middle of the field and make him run after it.
Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, it's not fine.
It's
but
not, it's not fine, but it's
still
not.
unsportsmanlike
It
conduct,
it
but
is
it's not
completely
grievous injury either.
Right. But again, if you're a very strong man and you're gonna hit a little man, you can't even close your fist. You got to open palm it.
Right.
You got to show the world that you're bigger, you're better, and you don't want to actually hurt this dude. You just
Right.
want to embarrass him.
You just want it, yeah. You just want him to know. and like one of the things that some people point out, say, hey man, have you ever played football before? You know, sometimes your helmet comes off and shit happens in the heat of the moment. Like, I heard that a lot, in the heat of the moment. Yeah, but I've also never in my life gotten paid millions of dollars to do anything.
Right.
I think that if I got paid millions of dollars to do anything, that thing I'm doing
Yeah.
is more important than anything else that I'm doing.
Right.
I'm talking about, it's more important than me eating.
Right.
It's more important than do I drive or don't drive?
Right.
Like,
You feel like you would, in that case, you'd have your little kids line up at the door when you left for work.
yeah.
And they'd be like, okay, Daddy, you remember that one situation we talked about? And you go to the next daughter and you're like, okay, Daddy, you remember with this one situation? And you go
Exactly.
to your son and he's like, Dad, listen, when that one dude says that one thing about your mom, let it go.
Yeah,
Let it go.
Remember, no head slaps.
Yeah.
Don't rip off the helmets.
Right. Don't
No.
tackle the dude before the ball gets there.
Don't hit him below the knees.
Yeah, and when the fans call you names, just let your
Just-
pants sag a little bit and get over it.
Exactly. Just shake them hoes off, Pop. Why? Because I have tuition due, and I got an expensive school. I don't know if you realize this, but there's a girl in my class that wants my balls.
And
I
I would
need
like
to
to-
go to class, man.
And I would like to see her next year too.
I would like to see her. So please,
Please.
do not piss off Roger Goodell.
Right,
Or
yeah.
anybody in the NFL.
Right. Jay-Z,
Yes,
Robert
don't-
Kraft.
Do not make Jay-Z angry.
any of them.
Pop, it's all riding on you. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break and come back.
My name ain't Nike, but yeah, I rock. You know what?
All right, we're back with Tattoo with Children. On Mondays, I just like to because on the weekends I don't record. You know, I work and I do the internet and I do my family and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah.
And so a lot of shit just kind of builds up.
Right.
You know, it's not that I'm not mad at you guys. And for the most part, my life is positive.
Right,
Okay.
right,
So I just
sure.
put out positive energy as much as I can.
Right. But Monday, you got a little build up that you got to get rid of.
I just got to get rid of. And
Right.
so, like, I'm looking, like, this PETA ad came across my eyes here. And guys, vegans, I don't want to fuck with you. I
Right.
don't. But you motherfuckers make it so difficult to stay positive. So this PETA ad, I'm going to show this to Pirate Ben and have him look at it.
Okay. All right. I'll look at it.
This PETA ad has a black man in bed. Beside that black man is a chicken. And beside the chicken is a white man, and they're all naked in the bed. The black man, the white man, and the chicken. And it says in muted font, meat interrupts your sex life. Something on those lines. Is that what it says, Ben?
Yeah, it says meat interrupts your sex life.
And there are two things that jump out right away.
Okay.
The first thing that jumps out to me is that the look on these guys' faces says, we just fucked a chicken, how do we live now?
Okay.
Like, that's what it looks, the ad itself, I'm talking about, the ad itself is these dudes somehow ended up with a threesome with a chicken,
Right.
and now they're wondering, okay, does this mean we have to commit suicide?
Okay.
The second thing that jumps out is, what the fuck does meat interrupts your sex life mean? Now, underneath that, in very, very small print, is the meat and dairy clog your systems or something and can lead to erectile dysfunction,
Okay.
is what they're referring to. Apparently, there's a documentary somewhere in the interwebs about it mentions that they did an experiment between people who were vegan and people who ate meat, and that apparently people who ate meat their penises don't get as hard
Okay.
or something along those lines, and so that's what they're referencing. Here's the deal, and I can only speak for me. Okay.
Speak it out.
If meat as a product is keeping my dick from getting as hard as it could be if I did not eat meat, then meat is doing me a great service, a tremendous asset. Because currently I sleep about 3 hours a night because of my dick. My dick keeps me up the rest of the night. If my dick was harder than it is now, it would be robbing banks with MJG and 8-Ball. So, hooray for meat, for keeping me sane, by keeping my dick in check. Having said that, what the fuck does PETA care? What the fuck does PETA care how my dick functions? Why are they trying to get into my life all the time? Look, I can understand you wanting to preserve the animals, but this whole idea that cows are cute and chickens are meat, like that's the other thing. They have a photo here of people fucking a chicken. Like, why is PETA okay with bestiality? Like, you say, well, they're not. No, they are. I've been seeing this over and over. It's been bothering me for weeks. They don't want you to eat the animals. They want you to treat the animals like people. Do you know what we do to people?
Right.
We fuck people in the asshole.
Right.
Don't do that to an animal.
Right.
That would be wrong. Okay? PETA, are you hearing me? Do not put a fucking chicken beside a naked man and expect me to, well, you have the moral high ground. No, asshole, you're a degenerate.
I think that's a big mistake that like vegans and PETA and liberals have been making for a long time, right? Is they say we treat people better. So they're saying we treat people better than we do animals.
Right.
So start treating animals like you treat people. The problem with that theory is I don't think they psychologically, like, they questioned that and took it a little further.
Right.
Because if you look at how we treat people,
We treat people very poorly.
right, I would not want us to treat people, to treat animals the way we treat people.
It would be so awful if I treated my dog
Right.
the way I treated, the dude down the street.
Right, exactly. Well, and that's the thing. Is like, why do you want me to treat my chicken? Right? I don't have a chicken, but if I had a chicken.
Right, if I had a
And
chicken.
See, that's the other thing. I would never have a chicken.
That's who
Who
okay,
has
yeah.
chickens?
Say, guys, chickens were never pets. See, that's the other. They were never pets.
Right.
They were never domesticated animals. They're
Right.
not domesticated today.
Right, they're food.
They're food.
Right.
Is what chickens
and
are.
We're going to get a lot of hate for this. I understand that. But the thing about chickens
Sure,
is,
that's fine.
But the thing about chickens is this. If you stop protecting chickens for, say, the next 20 minutes,
Yeah.
okay, there will be no more chicken.
The chickens will go away.
Right.
Everything out there would eat the chickens.
Right.
Hawks would eat them. House cats would eat them. Every dog would have a chicken
right.
dinner.
Exactly. Chickens will be gone in like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Chickens do not protect themselves. Whatever they've told you, and again, those spurs, okay, those
Yeah.
spurs are very painful.
Yeah.
Do you know what's also painful? A 12 gauge.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like those spurs are going to come into your yard and like razor cut your dog one time, and then you're going to get the 12 gauge, and there will be no more chicken.
Right. Like the whole reason chicken exists is a food source. Otherwise, they don't exist.
I'm
So,
pretty sure
like-
those bullets are bigger than the chicken.
Yeah,
All
exactly.
I'm saying, guys, is I don't think that you're sending the message that you think that you're sending. It's not like I'm not saying that you should not be vegan. If you want to be vegan for the environment, okay, be vegan for the environment. All right. I can see climate change. You say, okay, meat costs the environment too much. I can see your
Cow
point.
farts.
Sure, cow farts. We can, but then again, if you're going to cow farts, you got to kill more cows so they don't fart anymore. Like that also doesn't. It's not the right message. God damn it.
I think my big problem with the ad, aside from the overtly sexual connotations involving a chicken, is the fact that I don't care what side of the political spectrum you fall on.
Uh-huh.
If somebody is trying to tell me how to live my life, okay, I'm immediately not going to be receptive to that
Right.
point.
Yes.
And so Peter's going to get a boo from me, period, because that's all of their ad campaigns, not just that one.
Yes.
They're all trying to tell me how to live my life.
You're
and
living
it's
your
like,
life wrong.
fuck
Here's how you live
off.
your life better.
Yeah. Well, and that goes for most advertising. I mean, most advertising is better subtle.
Right.
This was my big thing with Nationwide Insurance a few years ago during the Super Bowl, and they ran that Nationwide, your kids are dead. ad set.
Yeah.
And no, they didn't actually say that, but the whole ad was about children dying prematurely.
Right.
And it was like a minute and a half of
It was-
kids dying.
It was one of the most disgusting things, and it wasn't disgusting because kids were dying. It's disgusting because this is the NFL.
Yeah,
this is football.
this is the damn Super Bowl, man. Okay, but also, could you be a little subtle about it? And this goes back to Gary Vee's thing about like if you look at business like trying to hook up, you do not walk into a bar.
Right,
You
yes.
and be like, hey, which one of you wants to have sex with me? And everybody can all count that one time where they say it worked. I've got news for you. Your friend was lying.
Exactly.
It didn't work.
It never worked.
No. Biggie talked about it. Gary Vee I'm pretty sure Jesus talked about it too. Like, you literally cannot do that shit. You gotta slide up all gentle like, and you gotta be like, hey,
Can't
what's
you
up?
just picture Jesus going up to John and be like, hey, John, listen, man. I got to tell you, your approach is all fucked up, all right? Watch what I do. Watch. Who the chick right there over there? Watch me. Hey, girl. What you doing over here? We all over here hanging out. Come on over to the VIP section of the village.
Yeah, and like, hey,
Show me what's underneath that robe.
and let me,
Jesus, that
listen.
doesn't count. She's a prostitute.
Listen, I got salvation for you though.
right, eternal salvation. But also, you're not walking up going, "Hey, listen, who wants to fuck?"
Right.
Hey, listen, your kids are dead, so have insurance for them. Like, when did that ever work?
You got exactly. It's never worked. Let me go ahead and take this ad to the third level because there's a third level to get to.
All right.
Oh shit.
We got a black man and a white man in bed together with a chicken. And so again, for some reason, some ad exec somewhere in the world has equated both interracial relationships and homosexuality with bestiality.
Right.
And I'm getting fucking tired of that.
Yeah.
I'm getting really fucking sick of people going, well, if we're going to let gays get married, why don't we just let people marry animals? Because it's not the same thing, you fuck.
Right.
And this equivalence, this false equivalence, it's so fucking pervasive
Right.
that we don't even say anything about it anymore. They said, well,
Right.
Peter was being inclusive. They're saying that gay sex is normal sex. No, they weren't.
No, they weren't being inclusive. They were literally relating something that is against nature.
Mm-hmm.
And just to be clear, that is a human being having sex with an animal.
Yes. That's against nature.
With things that humans do with each other, which is not the same thing.
At all.
Yeah, okay, but there's a shadow to this layer.
Okay,
right,
all right, talk about the
as
shadow.
well, because by confounding something that commonly is seen as wrong with what one group, one individual group
sees as wrong,
you are speaking to a group of people who normally you wouldn't be able to advertise to. So one of the things that ad does is it's going to speak to a group of people who are well, interracial relationships are just as wrong as bestiality, and they're going to respond more positively to that ad because of that. It's a marketing tactic. That's how advertising works.
Yeah, it's but see that, I mean, you're correct, but
Yes.
but we should, again, I think that brings up the point we've been making for a couple episodes here, which is how much perspective matters, but also how we seem to have moved into an era where you can't say anything is wrong.
Right.
Now, let's just go on the record here, and let's take it off of a serious topic for just a second.
Okay.
And let's say, okay, humans should not fuck a tree.
Okay. I can get behind that statement.
Okay? And people say, well, who is it harming? All right, look. Let's be real. Okay? As someone with a sexual member, I can tell you that if that were to be a thing that I tried, I would in fact be harmed.
I would not enjoy it.
Right.
And I really believe in my heart of hearts, not with the tree.
Right. So splinters are a thing.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Friction is a thing.
Is a thing. There's just no good that comes from that. But the crazy thing is, we live in a world now where people would actually argue that point.
Yeah.
And say, yes, but if someone is into that, that's okay.
Right.
No, it isn't.
That's actually not okay.
It's actually not okay.
That's
you
not
say,
an okay thing.
You say, well, who is it harming? Well, first of all, it's harming the person involved.
It's harming the person involved. It's harming nature. And this is a thing that people will say, okay, everything is that's natural is good.
No.
And then you look at plants. There's a way to do with this plant. Okay, we're going to chop that down and eat it, so that we don't harm the animals.
Right.
So, but what about the plant?
Right.
So, well, the animal. Like, what about the fuck? How is it that different?
Yeah.
Like, I understand that there's a difference. I get different between plants and animals, but not in your moral indignation about plants and animals. You're not making any goddamn sense.
Right.
So
Yeah, we're going to have to get
Yeah,
off this.
we're gonna get off this.
Because Tattooed with Children cannot be labeled as the guys that have sex with trees podcast.
but I will say this: the thing that I don't mind being labeled, and I came to this weekend definitely is I don't mind being labeled a boomer. I'm fine with that.
Okay, boomer.
Yeah, I'm good with that. You can say it to me all day. You can say it to the whole goddamn podcast. Okay, boomer, because there are certain things that I am definitely a boomer about. We're gonna get to that in just a moment.
I carry the club like Neanderthal. The choir got everybody dancing, dog. Yell on that X, I'm a sentinel, standing tall. No time to stand still, please don't meander, dog. They're throwing jazz at me to challenge my rap savvy. I sway like Callaway.
Are you back with Tattoo with Children? Now, according to CNN or C-SPAN or where did we see this article about Zennials, Mike? Where'd you see this thing? Zennials?
Zennials?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Okay. When it says somewhere in the world, people have named my generation, the generation born between 1975 and 1983,
Okay.
as Zennials.
What, Mike, can you look that up? Can
Yeah.
we get some confirmation on when boomers are and when zennials are and all these different terms? I can't keep up.
It's hard to keep up with, but we're the Oregon Trail generation. We're the generation that started out without technology, and were in our adolescence when technology advented, and we grew up with it.
But that's not a boomer.
Right? No, that's not a boomer.
What is a boomer?
But
So, the traditionalists or the silent generation is 45 or before. Boomers are 46 to 64.
46 to 64.
46 to 64. Those
Gen
are the boomers.
X is 65 to 76.
Okay.
Millennials or Gen Y, 77 to 95.
Okay.
37 to 95.
That's the traditional generation breakup. We've since learned that there is a shift generation in there, which is us,
Right.
the 75 to 83ers, where we
Or
have this-
84, we don't
or
know.
84.
Yeah,
Yeah,
whatever it
it's the technology drag generation where we grew up with the morality of the boomers, and then had to develop a new morality to adjust to the changing technologies.
Okay.
And so as a result, in many ways, we think like the baby boomers.
Okay.
Okay, I'm coming to terms with the fact that, see, the baby boomer generation, that's the Donna Reed generation. Okay, like the generation that created Donna Reed, the greatest generation. They already knew that they were assholes.
Okay.
You know, they had killed people, they had raped people, and so now they had burned their lives to ashes, and they raised a country, a new nation out of those ashes. That's what makes them so great.
Okay.
They weren't great people, but they did a great thing. They sacrificed themselves for the good of everyone else. The baby boomers were the generation that sprung out of that, of course, because generations that are against each other are against each other. And so they tried to reject the greatest generation's gift. And as a result, they end up fucking everything up. So much of their morality is based in mixed messaging that is a reaction to something that was true. Like when somebody says, Hitler was bad, they're like, yeah, well, the truth is you're bad as well because you fought Hitler. What you should have done was love him. And so on and so forth. You know, like that was the shit that baby boomers said.
Okay.
So they developed things like the whole free love concept, and then they go into the 70s where they're all about coke and disco. Like all of that happened with the baby boomers. So as a result, we internalized a lot of that shit growing up. Like we were watching My Three Sons, Donna Reed, Mr. Ed, The Virginian, Gunsmoke, Little House on the Prairie, and then it went on into what was that shit with Michael Landon when he was an angel? What was that one called? Whatever.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, that shit, bananas. Like, and it's so on and so forth.
Right.
And so a lot of our moralities are very puritanical. But I've learned
Highway to Heaven.
Highway to Heaven, yes, thank you. But I've learned is that I'm very good with much of that Because it gave me it gave that, along with being raised in a extremely Baptist household, it gave me this moral center that I could test things against. Not that I'm right, it's just right every time, but I have a way to test things.
Okay.
So when I see something that looks wrong, I can ask myself, is this wrong morally? Is it wrong logically? Things like that, where a lot of these, not millennials, like what's after millennials?
Gen Z.
A lot of these Gen Zers don't have a test case.
Okay.
So, for example, a girl goes to a music festival with a boyfriend in 3 years, and music festival, some radio shock jocks get hold of her and say, "Hey, if you abandon your boyfriend right now, I'll give you 30 minutes with the baby."
Uh-huh.
And she goes, "Sure, why not?" And the guy's like, "Hey, man, we've been together 3 years. Are you going to throw me away?" She's like, "Yeah, sure am. It's not a big deal." And she runs off.
Right.
As a boomer, right? As my boomer morality, that's wrong. It's being disloyal. You know, you're being disloyal to a person who has been there for you for 3 years for a thrill that can last no longer than 30 minutes, at best. A Gen Zer, that was it? Mm-hmm. A Gen Zer would disagree with me, would say, "Okay, boomer," immediately, because say we're young, we're here to make mistakes, we're hoe is life, we're doing it for the Instagram because we can, and we have time to correct this behavior later. I'm in between 20 and 30. When I turn 30, I'll settle down.
See, I wonder I just tend to wonder what an actual Gen Zer would say. So we need to get one of them in here at some point.
Much of the time, they'll say, "Well, no, that's wrong." Philosophically, they'll say that's wrong. That's okay, but what about when you're drunk?
I tend to see Gen Z as the experienced generation.
Yes.
You know, I was watching a TED Talk at one point. Actually, I think, Ben, you sent it to me, that talked about how we're transitioning from a service-based economy to an experience-based economy.
Right.
And I think Gen Z embodies that concept completely. And it gives not necessarily a moral reasoning, but an explanation as to what you're saying in, experience is paramount, loyalty is subordinate to that.
Right, and so they'll absolutely say, fine, it's wrong, but it's okay to be wrong now because I'm young and I got time to be right. Well, the problem with that is I'm 40 years old now, so I've gone through 20s and 30s.
Uh-huh.
I'm into my 40s, and I can tell you right now, if you do this in your 20s, when you get into your 30s, they won't be there. Who are they? I mean the loyal guy that you just threw away, the loyal friend that you just threw away, the loyal family you just threw away.
But here's the interesting thing about that is that, okay, I hear you, but the one thing we lack here is perspective.
Uh-huh.
Because what if, and again, I understand this is hypothetical, but what if they'd broken up 12 other times for less important issues?
Yeah.
So this is actually a legitimate thing where this person is making a decision based on their experience, and their experience is that A, that person is going to be there.
Right.
And that B, this is probably a good reason to do it.
Sure. If in that person's experience, I was taking that into account. I was about to say it. Say in your experience, like you're saying that this person is either A, going to come back, or B, he did the same thing last festival.
Or what I'm saying is she's going to get her 30 minutes with the baby, and then at minute 33, she's gonna be back with homeboy.
Right. Yeah.
He's gonna reclaim her.
It'll be right there. Or they'll post a thing on Instagram. You'll be like, well, you got a bunch of likes, and so I'm cool with it. The things that I'm saying like this is what I'm saying from my moral center. I say, guys, that's not loyalty, and that loyalty is actually worth more than that experience.
But I'm going to disagree with you right there because I understand that from your perspective, that's true. But from the perspective of this person born in a different time with their nature, their nurture,
Right?
your loyalty may not actually count.
Right.
Well, I do think there's a point to say because of generational gaps that you're describing, there is a completely different set of rules
Yes, a whole different roadmap.
in intra
Generational.
generational relationships versus generational relationships.
Right.
And
Which
I
is-
think
which is
that's
why I'm perfectly okay with being told, okay, boomer.
And that gives you the Gen X side and the foresight that I think most boomers who would actually get someone to say okay boomer don't have.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to get back to is the thing about these kids is you got to remember, they've watched us.
Right.
This is one of my issues with it. In other words, have you taken the time to consider that your loyalty might actually be misplaced?
Oh yeah.
I
No,
mean,
I'm not saying I've done that, but that is definitely a thing that you have to struggle with.
Yeah, I think it is, and I think it's something that they're looking at from their perspective, and it's one of the reasons they're so experience based. One of the reasons that they're so experience based, in other words, one of the reasons that she's willing to actually do that, okay, is that she's watched the term loyalty for 17 years,
Right.
and she's found it wanting,
Right.
and so
Like, what is loyalty actually worth?
Yeah, because my mom and dad were loyal to each other until year 14, and then they
Right.
threw that out the window.
Right.
My boss was loyal to me
Until year 5.
Until year 5, and the budget crisis came around, and I was loyalty to the Green Party
Right.
until it turned out that they actually didn't do what they said.
Right.
And so now I'm not. Toyota was loyal to me until it came time to replace that alternator, and the local dealership charged me $29,000, which is actually more than the car.
Right.
So fuck you, fuck your loyalty, and fuck you for not fixing the term loyalty before I got here.
Right.
So we're going to do it for you. We're going to fix the term loyalty, right? And it's
Sure.
going to be far more flexible than what you said before. Because what's really important? And that question can only be answered by that generation. What's really important?
Yeah, it can only be answered in that generation, and it's going to be answered on an individual basis. I'm just saying that my generational knowledge doesn't really fit there. So it's perfectly okay if people call me a boomer or whatever Zennials will be called.
Okay, Zoomer.
Yeah, Zoomer. I'm good with that. I'm not saying I'm like whenever I talk morals, I never assume that I'm right. Like usually I assume that I'm wrong in some fashion because, like Ben said, I was taught to be loyal to a company. I figured out pretty early on that was bullshit. You know, that's not something that you could do because I had to. Like the technology demanded it. You know, it's like this is all a response. Like I grew up in one morality, and that morality had to be adjusted to fit the time. So much of what feels wrong to me is actually the way to go most of the time because that's what the times call for. You know, you can't be loyal to your mom and pop if they're going to price gouge you.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you just can't. You can't afford it. That's not what your life that's not what your lifestyle is built around, because your lifestyle is built around speed with the internet. And so if I can get a product faster from Amazon than I can from driving down the road, then it's dumb for me to waste my gas driving down the road.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's just the wrong way to live.
Right.
So I'm not going to do that. I mean, yes, it goes against my morality, but in that case, my morality is bullshit. You see? So, like, it's always adjusting. I'm just saying that if you guys, like, if it sounds like I'm out of touch at times, I'm definitely am.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm okay with you telling me that. So
Yeah.
go ahead and tell me.
Yeah. You're saying that you're okay with the label.
Yes.
You don't mind the label.
Yes, I'm okay with the label, and I'm okay. And in other words, like if you say it, if I say something, you say okay, boomer. I don't take that as stark.
Yeah.
I mean, as snark.
Yeah.
You know, I take that as okay. This is a generational gap that you've fallen into.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, you know, let's talk about it. Like, there's no harm in conversation.
Right.
You know, that's my whole thing.
Let's go down that rabbit hole a little bit further.
All right, we're back with Tattoo with Children. Listen, Mike's not going to say shit because he's got a mouthful of Whataburger right now. But Ben had a direction for us to go forward.
Well, I've been thinking about this. You know, I think it's funny how you and I, like, we get to the same place, but we get there from very different directions still. So you will take an entire weekend and burn on all this information happening, all these data points, whether it be Twitter, whether it be conversations with your sister, whether it be, and you come into a Monday very hot.
Right.
And that's a good thing. It's interesting that, so I get hot when the information is happening.
Right.
So, for instance, when the pass interference call didn't happen, I was hot then. But by the time I get to Monday, I'm like 3 or 4 levels past that. Mm-hmm. And that's not to say that my way of doing it is better than yours.
No.
It's a very different way of doing it.
Yeah, we're getting to the same conclusion. Like,
And-
I reached the point that you are now, and
Right.
it makes me angry. You know,
Right.
Right.
Yeah, so from my perspective, one of the things that came up over the weekend was, or through the course of last week, was that one of the things you and I have noticed together is that the one of the places that we've gotten to, our common point of interest, is that there's no harm in having a conversation.
Yes. That's something that I believe in fully now.
And I think that it's one of the places where we've, as a society, that's actually pretty rare. In other words, all the things on this podcast, all the episodes,
Yeah.
they've led up to one thing, and that is there's no harm in a conversation. There's no harm in discussing an idea.
Even if that idea is controversial or even painful.
Yes.
Like, even if it's triggering.
Even if you've never discussed it before, even if from your perspective you're like, damn, that is something that I have literally never thought before. I have never considered someone having sex with a tree.
Right.
You know, or something that asinine. I think
Licking hands.
one of the things, licking hands that we brought up in like episode 5 or 6.
God.
It's never gonna die.
It isn't ever going to die. But the interesting thing about it is why are humans so opposed in 2019 to a conversation?
I'm glad you said in 2019, because in my experience and in my knowledge, I think that's new. Like, I think in the past, from what I can remember,
Yeah.
I used to have conversations with people about everything. Like,
Yeah.
I remember having long, important feeling conversations about religion with my pastor and with
Yeah.
my deacons.
Uh-huh.
You know, I mean, like, and I was asking hard questions, and they didn't really want to answer per se, but they were at least like, all right, little brother Coleman here has brought up a point.
Yeah.
Let's take it to the room. You know, I
Right.
mean, like, or I can remember having long conversations about science with my science teachers. And I actually had a whole science club. I formed a science club in elementary school. We would sit there and discuss the space program.
Yeah.
You know, discuss how it is, why it is, what it could be doing next.
Yeah.
Like shit now that I think people would absolutely revolt against.
Yeah.
Like you remember when Donald Trump did the whole Space Force idea?
Right.
There was ha 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 Donald Trump being an idiot.
Right.
And I'm going like,
That's
okay, but
That's
have
interesting.
we thought about it?
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Is it? I mean, I'm not saying we should do it, but I'll talk about it.
I would do it if that would put more money into space exploration.
And I think that's what's to an interesting. I'm going to bring up an interesting idea here. Is so if this new generation, which is interested in experience,
Yes.
do they recognize that not being able to have conversations actually limits the amount of experiences they can have? In other words, what I think is happening is because we're not discussing, okay, because we're not having a conversation about any issues,
Right.
and I mean any issues.
Right.
As human beings, we are not having discussions. We're not having conversations. Okay?
Okay.
You-
Look.
go
okay.
ahead,
Okay.
break it.
Like Ben's talking
Sure.
about a topic here. I look over at Mike Payne's Whataburger sandwich. I just noticed that he's eating a goddamn triple meat Whataburger.
Okay.
So fucking good.
Okay.
I understand that these exist.
Right.
I just did not think that there was a human being that would just, hey, it's Monday on lunch. Let me get 3 Whataburger patties and put them on a bun and stuff my face with it.
Right.
What the fuck is that, Mike? Like, what is going on with
Did
you in
you-
your
okay.
life that you gotta have 3 Whataburger patties, man?
Hang on. Let's have a conversation about this. Have you
I
ever
believe in the Holy Trinity.
looked at the menu, Ray?
I have.
Okay, but see, a menu at any given restaurant is like what's trending on Twitter.
I'm sorry, but
What?
this motherfucker has literally a half a steak in his hand, and he's just like,
So maybe the vegans have a point. Maybe
No, they do.
Maybe
oh god.
Michael should not eat an entire cow in one hamburger.
It's fantastic though. I mean, he's right though. Like it looks godly. You know what I mean? It
Right.
looks definitely like something like the priests would have brought back from their sojourn. Fellas, I found one of God's holiest objects.
I'm
the
the type of
triple
guy.
meat Whataburger.
I'm the type of guy that looks at the menu and goes, "What's the biggest thing on that fucker?"
Yeah.
And then I go, "I want that. Give me that."
It's just hilarious because like I couldn't take my eyes off of her half a second. And Ben's like, "What is going on?"
No, it was pretty fascinating. You definitely had a moment. I think
Yeah.
you had more of a moment than Mike is having. Mike is having a moment, but you had more of a moment watching him have his moment.
It has to do with food. Like anything has to do with which also this is always like the whole part of the whole reason like I love food. And if you follow me, guys, you follow me on Instagram or if you follow me on I guess now TikTok is where I do most of it now. But if you follow those 2 areas, you see I'm all about food all the time.
Yeah.
And it's for 2 reasons. One, because food is a wonderful point of cultural intersect.
Okay.
So whenever you go to a new place, the first thing that you really want to know is what's good here to eat.
Okay.
You know, that's your first major question that you have to answer.
Right.
And if you come back from a new place, the first thing a person wants to know about that place is what was good there to eat. And so I think that's because that's where the culture of a place is. That's where the experience of a place really is in the food. And food is the great place to have a conversation about a culture. It's a great place to have a conversation about life. It's about food. So it fosters both experience and conversation.
Yeah.
And so I tend to be very food focused. And so I saw this triple meat Whataburger in Mike's hands that he has literally finished in less than 4 minutes.
Right.
He just wolfed it down. And I'm just fast. I had so many questions at once
Yeah.
that popped into my head. I was like, who is, and then, it's like all that was popping up.
Yeah.
So that was what that moment was about.
No, I think that's a perfect example. In other words, even so at this point, you've laid out a little bit of what's happened in your head.
Yeah.
But you haven't had a conversation about it yet.
Yeah. We haven't discussed it yet.
Mike had either a craving, okay, or he had a desire, or he had a want, right? But he hasn't had a conversation about that either. See, he just went straight for the experience.
Right.
Okay? My concern, and maybe this comes from being like firstborn or the oldest.
Okay.
Maybe this comes from taking care of people rather than looking to necessarily what's going to be best for me. Okay? But one of the things that I identify here in this setting about what just happened is that, number one, we're moving into a place where you're not going to have that experience anymore.
Right.
You, Ray.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, so what did I just say? In other words, what I just said was, we are moving into a place in 2019 where you're not going to be around people who eat together anymore and be able to look over and watch them eating.
Right.
The other thing that bothers me immediately about this is that we're also moving into a place where Mike is not going to be able to have that experience anymore. You say, what do you mean, Ben? Well, he's going to go to Whataburger, and there's not going to be anything big on the menu because whoever is controlling the menus, namely the consumer, is going to decide that he shouldn't be able to buy that much meat in one sitting.
Right.
So I'm more concerned with the fact that neither of the things that you both experienced will be able to be experienced again
if we don't
keep
having
conversations.
Yeah.
And so I understand that Gen Z, I understand that these, what are the kids born after 2000? What are they called? Are they Gen Z?
They're still part of Gen Z, yeah.
Okay.
All the way up to like 2014, 2012.
Jesus.
What's after that?
Who knows?
Babies.
Have we named it yet?
I haven't named it yet.
That's my daughter. I call her a monster.
Gen AA.
The monster generation.
Okay. I don't. My concern from the perspective of a leader is, will that generation be able to have as many experiences? And the answer that I can see right now already occurring is no.
I think one of the things that I see occurring currently is that travel will start to be restricted. Like I don't think that my youngest daughter will be able to travel nearly as much as my oldest daughter.
Yeah.
Because, for example, my daughter met. If you ever follow roller derby, the top teams are Rose City, Gotham, and Victoria. Mm-hmm. My daughter met the Victorian team from Australia the year that they won the big championship, the Hydra.
Okay.
She met them. She actually swam in a swimming pool with them. Knows them personally.
Okay.
My youngest daughter can't do that because currently the Victorian team is being restricted on immigration a lot of the time. So they are having a hard time getting from country to country.
Okay.
You see, so I think that travel is going to be getting more and more restricted.
Right.
In time. And so the thing that a lot of Gen Zers have really enjoyed has been country hopping. You know, you see a lot of Gen Zers going all over the world.
Right.
And they've really kind of gotten bored with it at this point because of how often they did do it.
Okay.
I think that the next generation is going to be landlocked.
Okay. And I would argue that within that, one of the reasons for that is we're not having conversations.
Yeah.
In other words, we're consuming this content, but we're not actually dialoguing about the content. We're not having conversations about the content, because as soon as you bring a topic up, okay, if you put 10 people in a room, as soon as you bring any topic up, generally 5 people will leave.
Yeah. Immediately.
Because they don't want to have a conversation.
They don't want to risk being triggered, or they don't want to risk being in a conversation with a person that they don't like.
Right.
Is that some sort of fear of confrontation? Is there a single reason for it?
I don't think there's a single reason for anything, but I think part of it is confrontation. But I think the other fact is they have already in their minds had that experience, and they don't want to have that experience again. Now, what's interesting is they have had an experience similar to it, but they haven't had the same experience. So, see, podcasting is already on the decline. You say, no, it isn't, Ben. I looked at the numbers. I agree. More podcasts are being started, but it's already in the decline in the sense of people are saying, well, yeah, but I've already listened to Joe Rogan, so why would I listen to Tattooed with Children?
Right. When I've already heard what that format offers.
Right, which is not actually the case.
Right.
See, and why would that not be the case? Well, because they've never heard a podcast with Ben and Ray.
Right.
They've never heard a podcast with Mike.
Right.
But then if they listen once, they say, well, I know all the things they have to say. See, this is also happening with relationships.
Yeah.
So I've been with a woman, so I'm not going to be with another woman.
Right.
Because I know what women are like.
Yeah.
No, you don't actually. Well, I've already dealt with a man, so I'm not going to deal with men anymore.
Had a horrible joke.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with children. Well, I met a child once, so I'm not going to have. I'm not going to deal with any. I'm not going to deal with any more.
I'm not going to deal with children. I'm not going to have kids because kids are always the same.
So I don't know. I'd like to bring that up probably in a future episode.
Well, I think this is maybe our primary topic. I think this is the kind of a theme that we circle around. We've been circling around a lot of things, but I think the central theme for this podcast has been this.
Like, what's the harm in having a conversation?
What's the harm in having a conversation, guys? Like, if it hurts, okay, it hurts. Life hurts. Let's hurt together for a while.
Yeah, but if you've already decided, for instance, that guns are bad,
right?
Why are you so scared to have that conversation?
Yeah.
If you've already decided Jesus is good, why are you so scared to have that? And I can hear the answer, by the way, from several Gen Z and several boomers I know. You know what the response would be? I'm not scared. I just don't want to.
Right.
Okay. But that actually, if we explored that a little, might end up being the definition of scared.
I believe it very quickly becomes. See, I know what's wrong. I have a good suspicion about what goes on in the head of a Gen Zer when you start to have a conversation that is difficult or confrontational. It's not that they're not scared of the confrontation. It's that they don't want to be dismissed. They don't want their voice to be unheard. Because their experience has been they speak and they speak and they speak, and they're not listened to.
Okay, so we have one. Hang on, I got to get to a new page. I really do, because I want to make a couple notes because we're going to go to an interesting place here. Okay, so one, we want to talk about in the future.
Yeah, he's writing.
Why?
He's got a one circle, so he's making bullet points.
Why is having a conversation?
And I know this is fascinating to listen to, guys.
So difficult.
Welcome
okay,
to the Tattoo Children planning meeting.
Okay, two.
Why is having a conversation so difficult? And this is important.
Yeah,
this is
well,
important,
it's important to me. It's interesting to me.
I think it's important in general. Like, I mean, it's important to my future conversations on this podcast, but I think it's important in general to have a conversation about why we don't have conversations.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, because the truth is, like, you've heard me say stories several times, guys. about how important I think stories are. The reason why stories are important is because after the story is over, you then discuss the characters. You then discuss the setting. You then discuss how this fits into your life. Like, there is a whole level of experience that happens with a story in after the story is over. And that is, if you don't tell the story, then you don't have that very important second level experience, which is the conversation afterwards, which is the part that actually changes things. The conversation is the part that changes things. So if you want things to be different, you have to talk about it. You have to get with other people and have a heart-to-heart. You ever heard that term before?
Come to
guys?
Jesus.
Heart-to-heart. Not even come to Jesus. Not even come to the altar. Just come to your brother. Come to your sister. Come to your mother. Come to your father.
See, the interesting thing that's coming to my mind, though, is as I start to wrap my head around this, is it's a podcast that you and I watched the other day, in which Joe Rogan is talking to Donnell and RZA from the Wu-Tang Clan, and in that conversation, RZA says you have to talk to yourself.
Yeah.
And Donnell says, but I don't talk to myself. And RZA says, but you do.
You just don't call it that.
And I think that's another interesting point of experience, is that why do we refuse to call anything a thing anymore? In other words, Donnell says, I don't talk to myself.
Why don't we call a spade a spade? Why
And RZA says, but you do.
Yeah, you call it prayer, or you call it
Why
brainstorming.
why would Gen Z say, well, I don't want to have a conversation? Well, because I've already had a conversation. But I've been around you for the last week, and I haven't heard you say 3 words. Why don't we call a spade a spade?
Yeah. Listen, guys, we're going to get deep into this motherfucking topic, obviously, but we're going to close it off for today. This has been Tattoo with Children. I've been your host, Flavor Ray. You can find Tattoo with Children on Facebook at Tattoo with Children. You can find us on IG at Tattoo with Children. And you can find us on Twitter at Tattooed With. And you can find us on TikTok at Tattoo with Children. You can find me on IG at Madara Shadow. You can find me on Twitter at Hunter Vanguard. You can find Ben at Black Crow Brother on IG and at Black Spot Tattoo Company on IG. And you can find Mike at CIO Payne on IG and at Payne.points on IG. And that's Payne, Payne. Guys, we're going to have this conversation and more conversations. I'm not going to stop anytime soon. Hope to see you there.
Later.
See you.
Love you guys.